they have been moving sideways. That's probably the term you should be using, because largely from say the beginning of last week, the market's been plateaued. Shares oscillating up and down. So those that are up last week maybe down this week, and vice versa. So largely that's where we are right now. Today the NASI was down, the NSE 20 was up. So you've got all these mixed indicators. So it's fair. I think it's fair to say it's moving sideways.
I mean, I think something that's baffled some investors and those looking into Kenya is up until about September, October, we saw the NSE upwards of 4,500 in terms of closing figures. In recent weeks, it's been just upwards of 4,300. Is it just sort of a lull because we're at the end of the year?
Well, like there are probably a couple of factors we could take that could be accountable for that. Number one, it's the seasons. So some people will probably be liquidating to finance the holidays. And number two, you've got we've had quite a number of capital raising initiatives. And thirdly, we have interest rates that have been rising up over the past few weeks. So that could also be a reason why value has been impaired in the market.
Right. Now, it's been said that foreigners are the ones that are helping to stabilize the market at this point, quite responsible for a lot of buying in the current market. Why is that? And particularly the stocks that they're interested in, Safaricom and KCB. Why is that?
Well, of course, I would imagine that they're looking to pick value from value stocks, value investments from Kenya, from their perspective. You realize that foreigners have a much lower required rate of return than Kenyans do, in terms, even just by looking at the interest rates prevailing in the West as opposed to what is in Kenya. And then of course, with regards to the specific stocks they are picking, they're pursuing liquid stocks. So there are some specific stocks that really appeal to them, shares that have reached the liquidity threshold, such as KCB and KPLC, Safaricom.
All right.
That
So it's an issue about just looking at liquidity and liquid shares. Let's talk a little bit more about KCB. It's one of the more cheaper of the banking stocks, one of the more actively traded stocks today, a bank that's invested heavily in technology and improvements at the local branch level. Is it a buy for you?
Yes, it is. It is for reasons that number one, it has invested in ICT. We should be seeing a lot more products rolling out, and hence allow the bank to earn more in terms of fees and commissions. Number two, they've just raised money through the capital markets, through a rights issue. So as they put the money to work next year, we might be seeing new growth on their side, and largely, if you look at valuations in terms of price earnings or even price to book value, you'll see that relative to the rest of the banks, it is attractively priced, and therefore it makes it an interesting investment prospect.
Other gainers today, Johnson, East African Breweries Limited and Nation Media. Explain these movements.
Well, EABL. Okay, recently we had the alcohol and a law on controlling of consumption of alcohol passed. And of course, it's made investors jittery. So you could argue that there was some overselling, and what you're seeing now is some correction. However, I'm still concerned about what the law on alcohol does to the top line of EABL, seeing as in the past few years the growth of the top line has not been so robust. On the other hand, they also have invested in Serengeti breweries in Tanzania, and before they get that to profitability at the level of where EABL is right now, it may take them a while. So I'll be watching EABL, not quite a buy right now, but maybe looking to get in future. Nation Media Group, we've seen strong results from media and media services. with the shares in the sector, such as Standard Group and Scan Group,
Right.
seeing quite a bit of growth in earnings, and that has probably, Nation 2 has also seen significant growth in earnings. So those are probably the factors that are driving the share prices.
Okay, very briefly, we've seen Samir Africa doing well. Why the rebound?
Earlier on, a couple of weeks back, Samir Africa had issued a profit warning, citing high commodity prices and strong dollar against the shilling, making it the costs of inputs impair the earnings, and on the other hand, they're not able to pass on the prices, the price increases to the clientele because of competition. So there was a rush out of the stock, and perhaps one could say there was overselling. Now, its sister company Eveready had issued a similar warning. However, Eveready East Africa has since announced its full year financial position, and it wasn't really as bad as people expected. So actually, you can't say it was profitable. It didn't make a loss either.
Right.
So people are assuming that perhaps Samia is not as bad as people have thought, and hence the rebound.
Okay, and then just still on equities, I mean, there's a bit of a discrepancy here. Explain it to us. A lot of interest in KPLC, obviously, because of their rights issue. The shares are stable, but the trading is under a bit of pressure. Explain that to us. The trading of the rights.
Yeah, the trading of the rights. The government is not taking up its rights, which constitutes perhaps at least a half of the issue, rights in issue, and actually more than a half, perhaps maybe even 70%, and all that is being dumped from the market. People are snapping up the rights. The supply is overwhelming the demand, and hence the price dip in the rights trading price. The shares will probably hold stable largely on the basis of valuation, even though that creates an arbitrage position, which we are encouraging our clientele to take advantage of.
And a final question to you. Lots of reports and lots of attention as to the process at the International Criminal Court concerning the prosecutions that may be underway in Kenya regarding the post-electoral violence. It's reported that about 6 politicians may be indicted. Now, markets seem to be responding to this news with a bit of anxiety because they see these indictments as probably going to have some bearing on the coalition government. Is that a valid concern? And how have markets factored in political risk factors going into 2011?
Well, it's definitely a concern, because we expect that the expectation on the ground is that the people who are going to be named are going to be high-profile politicians in the country. And we are not too sure how that's going to play out with regard to their support base, how they are going to take it. So whilst we don't think that it will be explosive, you still never know. I mean, you can't predict some of these things.